Whenever Mei returned to the dormitory, she naturally gravitated towards Yi Zisu. Ming Tian was just too cold and unapproachable. Although she wasn't a bad person at heart, they simply couldn't get along. This Wang Zheng was truly fickle when it came to matters of the heart. He had quietly gotten a girlfriend of his own. When Yi Zisu heard about what happened from her friend, on the surface, she seemed extremely calm. However, deep down in her heart, Yi Zisu couldn't believe it. She considered herself as one of those who knew Wang Zheng a bit better. During his entire time in middle school, no one paid any attention to him. Furthermore, during the holidays, he had gone to OMG to intern as a mechanic. When did he ever have the time to look for a girlfriend? Furthermore, Wang Zheng was the type of guy that took a long time to warm up to people. When she heard that he had suddenly gotten a girlfriend, she truly couldn't believe it. And Mei could see that Yi Zisu seemed unconvinced of the circumstance. Susu, I have also talked to her. No matter how you see it, she is a formidable opponent. I feel as though she is absolutely invulnerable. You need to be careful. However, I believe that with Susu's qualities, you are more than capable of beating her. It's not like she is a three-headed six-armed monster, said Du Qingqing. The two of them were extremely curious about Wang Zheng. To be honest, Xian and Mei felt it was quite strange. Although Wang Zheng wasn't ugly, he didn't seem to possess any exceptional qualities either. They didn't understand which part of him had captivated Meng Tian and Yi Zisu, two individuals with completely polar opposite personalities. So what if his military performance wasn't bad? It did not warrant such popularity. Furthermore, he had silently and wordlessly gotten himself an amazing girlfriend. Oh, and before I forget, our art club's leader has asked us to speed things up. He was supposed to model for us. What happened to him? Has he gone back on his word? Asked Du Qingqing suddenly, directing her question at Yi Zisu. Yi Zisu understood her meaning. Her friend was trying to console her by casting doubt on Wang Zheng's qualities as a person and his lack of commitment to a promise made. However, Susu, I will still support you wholeheartedly. Even if there is a struggle, it is only an internal one. We can't let some outsiders intrude onto our territory and steal our natural resources. 1. And Mei clenched her fists and continued to speak. Tyrant Su will be our source of insider information. I will extract as much information from him as possible. Yi Zisu bit her lip as she replied, it's all up to you now. And Mei and Du Qingqing looked each other in the eye. Deep down they were shocked. On the surface, Yi Zisu was a gentle and kind person. But inside, she was extremely haughty. Seeing her admit defeat and look to them for help, especially concerning matters of the heart, such a situation felt so surreal. As an exchange student, Aina didn't come to Aries College just to date, she was also here to learn. Some of her lessons overlapped with Wang Zheng's schedule. For instance, they both attended Xiao Fei's lesson together. Even on an intergalactic scale, Xiao Fei was considered to be at the top of her field. The two lovebirds had already exchanged timetables the day before. Today, the two of them would get to go to class together. Wang Zheng had arrived extremely early to reserve a seat and was listening to music as he waited for Aina to arrive. Do you like to listen to Weiyan's music? Aina smiled as she sat next to Wang Zheng. This song isn't bad, you can really feel her energy through the lyrics. I prefer to listen to songs that get your blood boiling, replied Wang Zheng as he removed his earpiece. Aina gave him a wry smile. She used your battle footage in your MV. Aren't you proud of that? Wang Zheng suddenly pulled Aina's hand, staring at his princess with pupils ablaze. Do you know what I'm most proud of? Aina's face turned red. This bastard was becoming more and more audacious. The two of them were interrupted by the sound of a bell, signifying the start of class. A new teacher walked in and immediately moved towards the podium. Good morning, everyone. I am your substitute teacher, Professor Marcus. Marcus's eyes swept across the entire classroom, surveying his temporary students. Immediately, the whole lecture theater started gossiping animatedly. Marcus was well known as the foremost expert of the math department. For him to teach a freshman class, such a thing was unheard of. What was happening this year? First, Professor Xiao Fei started giving lectures, and now Marcus was teaching freshmen? However, such news was only beneficial for the freshmen. Everyone here should know that mathematics is the foundation of science. The millions of things in the universe can all be expressed as a beautiful mathematical equation. Even love. Marcus had very quickly earned a round of applause. The more amazing a teacher was, the more likely they had abnormal standards. They were erudite and could use simple methods to convey complicated information. Furthermore, they could stimulate one's own thinking processes. Marcus had no choice but to take a freshman class. He was still unable to identify his mystery genius student, and Xiao Fei wasn't helping him in the slightest. However, Marcus felt that she seemed to be hiding something. Regardless, since the student was of this school and was a freshman, there would definitely be a way to identify him. Thus, he had chosen to conduct this class to see if he could discover this genius student. However, he had yet to obtain any positive results. At this rate, Marcus could only continue to do this for another month before giving up his search. It simply wasn't possible to keep teaching the freshman classes, because his own research was already extremely time-consuming. Aina was usually quite a responsible student who paid attention in class. Unfortunately, what Marcus taught was something that Aina already understood. Aslan's elite would receive their education from the early age of 3, and thus Aina's intellect could not be compared to an average individual's. However, she could still feel that Marcus was of a high caliber. As one of Earth's 3 traditional colleges, the standard was not as bad as she had expected. Imparting knowledge was one thing, but being able to create was something else entirely. If the ability to innovate was constrained, it would still be extremely difficult to progress. Marcus quickly finished the lesson in half of the allocated time before pausing. One has to be nimble in their thinking and be willing to try. As the famous adage goes, dare to dream and dare to act. I have here a solution to one of Marloca's conjectures. I believe that most of you have heard of it. The first step is as such. Who here can understand this? Saying which, Marcus began to write out a complicated equation on the blackboard. Wang Zheng, on the other hand, was only looking at Aina. Aina couldn't help but reply, "We're in class. What is so great about looking at me?" She, are you trying to say that the old man on the podium is better looking?" As he said that, he continued to tug at Aina's hand. Aina attempted to struggle slightly before eventually giving up and letting Wang Zheng grasp her hand tightly. The entire class was absolutely silent. Even though all of them were geniuses in their own respective countries, this equation truly stumped them. Aina stared at the equation momentarily. Although she had previously understood this, she would never flaunt her knowledge. At this point, a short-haired man stood up. "Professor, is this equation trying to say that with Rodriguez's theory as a basis, using computational analysis?" The short-haired man greatly enjoyed being in the limelight, yet he had even greater hopes that the girl sitting in the front row would turn to look at him. Marcus nodded continuously as the guy continued to speak. His answer was not that bad. "What's your name?" "Landry Bussin," said the guy slightly haughtily. The rest of the class began to whisper amongst themselves, and one after another began to pay attention to him. Landry Bussin was a mathematics genius. He had entered the Sol system's top 10 new stars. He had risen to fame by completely explaining Moore's theory, an influential figure in middle school. However, after entering Ares College, he was disappointed to find out that Marcus did not teach any freshman classes. Landry Bussin was determined to use his own abilities to gain Marcus's attention. A diamond's luster could not be obstructed by dirt. While he was explaining, Wang Zheng and the beautiful girl continued to whisper and giggle, completely disregarding him. Landry Bussin started to get agitated. This bastard, although he was from the physics department, he wanted to enter the mecha department's special training. However, he was transported back half dead after being kicked out. He had no sense of shame and could still act so happy and contented. "Excellent explanation, Student Bussin." Marcus gestured for Landry to sit down. This brat could indeed be the one. He had also heard of Landry Bussin's name. This was an extremely learned and gifted student. Bussin did not sit down but instead looked at the front row. "Professor Marcus, I heard that among us there is a genius from the physics department. Even Professor Xiao Fei holds him in high esteem. He often engages in lively conversations with the professor in class. Since mathematics and physics are quite closely related, I would like to hear his opinion on this equation." "Oh." Marcus looked at the front row. "Who might this student be?" "Student Wang Zheng, what are your opinions on Marloca's first step conjecture?" Busan had singled out Wang Jung to challenge him. The surrounding students immediately felt antagonism and tension fill in the room. Yet our dear student Wang did not even notice that he had become the center of attention. In the physics department, Xiao Fei's high opinion of him had already aroused the ire of many. Ana's appearance had only caused that fire to turn into an inferno. In this day and age of dating, a girl chasing a guy would be very direct. If there was a goalkeeper, it would motivate one to score even more. However, to score in this goal would have a price. It was not that Wang Jung was not listening in class. Rather, he had already completely understood the entire theory a long time ago. During dear student Wang's pointless childhood and middle school, he had spent all his time playing with the theory of numbers with the old merchant. Hence, when it came to things like drinking and playing, he was a complete amateur. Ana lightly pushed him and said, in a low voice, "Let us take turns to handle this. There is no need to be scared of him." The entire class's curious gazes fell on Wang Jung. They wanted to see if this bastard's luck would continue to hold. Wang Jung stood up, glanced at the equation on the board, and mulled for a minute before beginning to speak. Marloca's first-step conjecture utilizing Rodriguez's theory is extremely wonderful. At this point in time, the entire class burst out into laughter. Was this not rubbish? This was one of the world's most famous theories. Why would one need to praise it? Just as Ana was planning to say something, the words remained stuck in her throat. The sort of smile Wang Jung had on his face was something that seemed vaguely familiar. She had often seen her father and her aunt have the same sort of smile. However, Marloca's conjecture mainly relies on the fact that spatial jumps are able to break the space barrier. However, Rodriguez's theory's explanation is purely theoretical. In practice, it is being phased out as his explanation for passing through the barrier would result in a deviation of approximately a 0.1%. This deviation is already considered to be significant. With the necessity of spatial theory being more precise over time, this theory would also have to be phased out. Currently, the most practical solution would be to use Mill's equation as the first step. In this case, the chance of deviation would fall to a 0.01% instead. The entire class fell silent. Busan's face was plastered with disdain. Was this guy joking? What was this Mill's equation that he was talking about? He had never even heard of it. Student Wang, is Mill's something you can eat? I have never eaten it before. Has anyone here eaten it before? At this point, a raucous laughter could be heard in the room. However, Marcus did not laugh. In fact, his heart already knew. Student Wang Jung, Mill's equation has not been verified, and there are still some shortcomings in that equation. Professor, you said that we have to dare to try. Mill's equation replacing Rodriguez's theory is just a matter of time. At the very least, the first step has already been completed. A good start is half the road to success. Really? Why don't you explain this first step? Marcus smiled. Ana stared at Wang Jung. This was also the first time she had heard of this. A princess wasn't all-knowing. The mainstream view was that of Rodriguez's theory, and furthermore, it had been in use for almost 10 years. Everyone stared at Wang Jung. Spouting nonsense was useless, he had to prove it. A large number of students was hoping to see Wang Jung stammer and make up an excuse, but much to their surprise, Wang Jung got up and walked over to the blackboard. 1. The natural resources here is naturally referring to Wang Jung. Student Wang was not particularly interested in standing out, but as he was provoked, especially in front of Ana, he would definitely not let this go. Wang Jung paused momentarily in front of the blackboard before beginning to furiously scribble equation after equation. Originally, Marcus was not very impressed. However, his expression quickly changed. The disdain on Busan's face gradually froze into a look of fear and horror. He could only understand a small portion of it. As an influential figure of mathematics in the Sol Systems, the Sol Systems Federation possessed unparalleled libraries of information. He had the best resources and means, and yet. Marcus continued to nod his head. Ana, who was sitting below the stage, was similarly transfixed at the sight. She could understand the vast majority of it, but there were some things in Wang Jung's workings that were beyond her. After a period of time, the entire blackboard was filled with symbols. The audience was deathly silent, awaiting Marcus's judgment. Marcus walked over and pointed at a string of inferences at the center. How did you think of this? God. His tone was that of one in a discussion. Wang Zheng did not think much of it. He had often argued with the old merchant. The way he saw it, the old merchant was like a library, and their discussions would evolve seamlessly and endlessly. Discussing such a minor topic with a professor wasn't a problem. Glancing at another string of explanations made by Wang Zheng, Marcus couldn't help but nod and smile. Were you the one who solved the equation on the blackboard the other time? Wang Zheng stared blankly before nodding. That was done casually. Haha, I finally understand why Xiao Fei feigned complete ignorance about you, Marcus said as he nodded his head. What student Wang Zheng said here is completely right. However, this method of analysis is at the very forefront of the Milky Way galaxy and is only for the purposes of our discussion. It will not be examinable. Everyone here does not need to consider this at all. Following which, Marcus erased everything on the board. To the average student, this would completely ruin things with his enthusiasm. It has to be said that everyone was completely dazed. As Wang Zheng returned to his seat, Aina stealthily gave him a thumbs up. That charming, adorable look led Wang Zheng to want to give her an embrace and a kiss. Girls were made to be conquered. Aina truly believed that those supposed geniuses could not compare with Wang Zheng. Who would dare say that Earth's standards were low? It was just that the Aslan Empire was just too ignorant. Aina did not dare to represent the highest tier of geniuses in Aslan. However, she would not place Xiao Fei in disregard. She now understood how far away Wang Zheng stood compared to her. He had such innate ability, yet he was so hardworking. There was no one else like him. Busan wordlessly sat down. He truly could not understand the whole thing. Thus, he could not even retort. The words from the professor had affected him, and he had been reduced to the position of just an ordinary person. How could a monster like this have been completely unknown in middle school? Aina, on the other hand, knew that this guy only liked to score 60 points on his tests. It could be seen that Wang Zheng had quite the humble personality. This lesson had indeed been quite fruitful, especially for Professor Marcus. Most importantly, he had identified the genius. There was no escape for him. He had once heard Xiao Fei mention that she had found a student with great potential. However, this student had wanted to join the mecha department. That was absolutely unacceptable. It would signify a great loss for the scientific world. How could those weapon-brandishing barbarians compare with the scientists that pushed the very frontiers of human society? In this regard, he was definitely with Xiao Fei on this one. The moment the class ended, Busan came to Wang Zheng. What reference book did you use? Where did you discover this argumentative proof? Wang Zheng smiled. In actuality, I have no clue as to what I wrote. You should be able to find it in the Milky Way's databases. Finishing which, he grabbed Aina and left the classroom. The moment they left the classroom, Aina couldn't help but laugh. You're so despicable, mocking that poor guy. Who asked him to look at you so lecherously? Wang Zheng replied with a feigned expression of seriousness. Aina grinned. What, are you jealous? You should reward me once for being jealous for your sake. Furthermore, I performed so well that you should reward me twice. Wang Zheng very quickly revealed his wolfish nature. He had managed to taste the sweetness of success yesterday. It was as though he had tasted the immortal fruit, and nothing else could compare to it. What? I didn't hear that. She was like the little Red Riding Hood who escaped from the wolf. Since he could not convince her with his logic, dear student Wang was determined to use force. Don't run. If I catch you, I will punish you with 3 strokes instead. His math was indeed brilliant. After training in an abyss of suffering, student Wang felt as though he was in heaven. Fortunate times often came without warning. Wang Zheng had also received an email from Solon. He wanted to ask if Wang Zheng was willing to participate in an interview, and for every question he answered, he would receive 10,000 Milky Way coins. Solon was extremely polite. This plan of his was still in the budding stages and thus his funding was not exceptionally abundant. However, it could not be too low if he wanted to attract Wang Zheng. Student Wang was at a loss. How could something like this happen? It was as though someone was literally giving him money, and on top of that, flattering him endlessly. In his mind, an image of skeleton appeared. Whether Bonehead needed the money or not, he did not know. However, what he did know was that he lacked money, and this opportunity could not be more welcome. On the other hand, Wang Jung knew that it wouldn't be good to do this too often. In all honesty, Wang Jung would have preferred it if he could just answer a single question occasionally and not be made into a public figure on the CT forums. Wang Jung was not particularly interested in becoming a celebrity of court. He was perfectly content with CT being able to sustain his lifestyle. Occasionally being able to enjoy the thrill of battle and being able to gain battle energy was sufficient. Hopefully it would not change his current lifestyle. All in all, Solon was well on his way. After receiving Wang Jung's reply, Solon's heart finally settled down. The current him was sitting in the Sol System's Earth and Moon CT headquarters. On the other hand, such a sight wasn't strange. Ever since a couple hundred years back, upon the advent of the internet conglomerates were already on par with traditional commodity trading conglomerates. They possessed terrifyingly large amounts of resources and channels to obtain what they needed. With Solon's unconventional success, it had stirred up some noise among the inner echelons of CT upper management. For today's meeting, the key question was to decide if they ought to increase the level of Skeleton's competitors. Solon was prepared to increase the amount of publicity afforded to Skeleton. However, the higher-ups were not convinced of such a move. Solon, it should be said that this risky plan of yours is inappropriate. We have no need to take such a risk. I am of the same opinion. I have seen his battles. They are all extremely thrilling. Even if he were to continue winning, there are still too many unforeseen parameters. Who is he? What if he wants to stop? What would we do then? The board members continued to throw out more and more reasons to dismiss Solon's idea. On the one hand, they were truly concerned about the riskiness of the proposal. On the other hand, they were unwilling to see Solon have an unprecedented amount of success. If Solon grew from this success, he could potentially climb over them. McLaren, the Sol Systems board chairman, was absolutely silent. He continued to let the other board members bicker. Solon also possessed some supporters, but they were not as significant. Furthermore, Solon's own position on the board was not high. After arguing for half a day, McLaren raised his hand to signal silence. Solon, with your excellent track record, you deserve a large year-end bonus. Your dedication to the company shall be rewarded accordingly. A key reason for your success is attributed to Lin Weiyan using Skeleton's battle footage to create her MV. If not for that, this would not have been possible. After listening to the chairman's words, everyone knew what he was hinting at. McLaren clearly wanted to continue with the plan. Solon's luck was just too good. Although he was not superstitious, it was always best to do things after considering one's fortune. Solon, that old bastard, was so lucky that such a golden opportunity was literally knocking on his door. His success seemed very likely. Mr. McLaren, sir, I will swiftly commence the plan. Hopefully, I will be able to cooperate with Ms. Lin. On the other hand, I have managed to gain Skeleton's agreement in carrying out an interview with him. During the period where Ms. Lin Weiyan will be carrying out her tour, we will have a massive opportunity which we need to capitalize on. If we don't, we will definitely regret it. Solon was extremely confident. At times, he would struggle tenaciously and would claw his way through adversity. This cautious approach had been a key factor in his success. As he presented his case to the board, he made sure to carefully and cautiously select his words. McLaren nodded his head. The benefits are great, but this is still a company. What we are concerned with are profits. Such mass advertisement would break all precedents and take up the vast majority of our advertising resources. I'm sure you understand that. Thus, the reward. McLaren, sir, I am both the proposer and implementer of this plan. I would like to thank everyone for giving me this chance. If anything unfortunate happens, I will take responsibility. Solon spoke very calmly. At this stage, he was already forced into desperate straits, so he could only advance and not back down. Frankly speaking, this wasn't very difficult for him. When he thought of the situation he was in several months back, he was already at his wits' end. At the very least he still had the luxury of choice right now and could even influence the outcome. Very good. So long as you understand. This plan has been approved. All the departments should try and cater to his demands. I do not want to see problems arising from disunity. Any problems that crop up will be borne by the group collectively. Spoke McLaren solemnly. As CT's top management member, his word was law. It was very clear from what he had said and done that McLaren was very supportive of this plan. Solon had numerous problems, but McLaren also had problems of his own. In the Sol system, Earth's performance was not outstanding. In the Milky Way coalition, the Sol system's performance was average. If McLaren wanted his company to stand out, he would need a player with huge future potential to draw the eyes of the masses. At McLaren's position, he was not worried about stability but rather his reputation. As the meeting came to a close, applause rang out. However, one could see the false smiles that lay on some of the board members' faces. They were all waiting to see a joke come to fruition. Seeing Solon climb to his position and stay on for such a long time, it was clearly time for him to retire. Yet here he was, tenaciously clinging on and placing all his hopes on a single individual, an individual which he knew nothing about. This was just too risky and uncertain. Furthermore, while Skeleton has had a lucky streak, no one could truly be that lucky. Skeleton's and Solon's downfall was guaranteed. Solon was clearly staking everything on this one throw. Solon strutted out of the room vigorously. He finally experienced his second wind, and at such an age to boot. He was finally able to do what he enjoyed after working in CT for so many years. He had climbed from a lowly programmer position until he became the Earth sector's vice chairman and the one in charge of the Asian region. He had already forgotten the joy of strife and was no different from a puppet. However, today he felt truly invigorated. Sometimes one has to trust their intuition. Although he had never met Skeleton, as a CT addict, he had watched Skeleton's battle recordings endlessly, reliving every detail. Technique, physical ability, experience, and even his psychological state. One could unearth all of this from paying attention to the details. Skeleton was truly a peerless and fearsome warrior. Even though there were times where his performance seemed slightly strange, Solon's intuition told him that Skeleton was definitely not very old. However, watching the battle seemed to show that he was a 40-plus-year-old experienced warrior who was at the peak. There was no other way to explain how he could have carried out the actions shown in the videos. Even then, was there any meaning to it even if he did find out Skeleton's true identity? If one wanted to accomplish something, they could not spend their time dreaming. On the other hand, our dear student Wong was completely oblivious to his impact on the upper management of CT. His performance in the arena had created such conflict among the board of directors. The Skeleton Corps was ranked first in popularity amongst the legions. The participation of masters, like Rainbow and Wild King, had brought great heat as well. Rainbow and Wild King were both capable of carrying people in team games. Rainbow crushed his opponents with his equipment, and Wild King had the ability to crush the opponents violently. It was undeniable that a good scout could make a turnaround. This made quite a few people enjoy the feeling of winning from behind. Just like the idiom said, 2 heads are better than 1. Though the teammates' abilities might be limited, if they had a good captain, they could still create miracles. Rainbow and Wild King never had the experience of being so popular. They logged in every now and then if they had a bit of free time, to see whether they could bump into Skeleton. In fact, people were just imagining how it would feel like if they could team up and fight alongside Skeleton. The pentakill last time was surely unforgettable. Yao Ailun, Chen Shu, and Tyrant Su gained the most advantage. Because of the positions they played, they got a lot of chances to win under the lead of Rainbow. Basically, they only needed to assist in the team game, and they could watch Rainbow's violent outburst kill the opponents fiercely. After the courses in the morning, Wang Zheng received Yi Zisu's message, saying she wanted to invite him and Shi to a meal. Of course, he couldn't reject this invitation. Sooner or later they would have to meet. Moreover, he had something to tell her. Except Xiaoshu, only Zisu could more or less recognize Aina. Yi Zisu was mentally prepared. She knew that the girl Wang Zheng liked would surely be excellent, but she had confidence in herself too. When Wang Shishi appeared in front of her, Yi Zisu was still amazed. She met Wang Zheng for the first time when he brought her the love letter from Yan Xiaoshu. The ridicule she made was actually generated by a girl's reserved manner and natural pride, or maybe unconsciously she was just trying to catch his attention. At the birthday party, the sudden appearance of Princess Aslan did cause an astonishment to the crowd, but no one actually cared. They were like two parallel lines in two different times and spaces, but now Aina Aslan was just sitting in front of her. Even though her hair color was changed, Jisoo still recognized her at the first sight. Wang Jung smiled and said, Jisoo, she is here to study just for a few months, and her identity still needs to be kept secret. Jisoo smiled and offered her hand. She, welcome, I think we can be good friends. The two girls gently shook their hands, and Aina's face lit up. It seemed like they recognized each other's confidence. Jisoo did have one advantage that Aina didn't have. She, in Beijing, if you have any troubles, you should go ask help from Jisoo, as Tyrant Su is not reliable. Hee, now you call him Tyrant Su too. Jisoo couldn't hold back her smile. She really didn't know what Xiaomei was thinking when she came up with such a nickname. Honestly, it was quite easy to remember, and it was sort of likable. They had lunch in the school's canteen. The food was plain, but although the quality of the food was not up to their usual level, both girls had a good appetite. Student Wang didn't really pay attention to these sorts of details. He was starving, he was hungry all the time, and he needed to eat several times more than an average man. Jisoo laughed and said, you can eat so much, you are definitely hard to provide for. Having a good appetite is the happiest thing in the world, said Aina. Well, that is true. By the way, Du Qingqing is going to have some issues. You promised to be the model of the art club, but you haven't checked in yet. Ah, so many things are going on recently. I will go there after I finish my classes in the afternoon. Wang Jung did forget the promise he made. Maybe he was just timid when he thought of the Superboy president of the art club. Yeah. With a beauty by your side, even if it were me, I would also get fascinated. Jisoo ridiculed. She had liked Wang Jung for 4 years from the beginning of secondary school. She thought they wouldn't have a chance to meet, but destiny was really funny sometimes. After a series of incidents, they even got admitted to Aries College together. She didn't think she would have no opponents. Meng Tian was one of them, but she didn't even think of having an opponent like Aina. But she knew she had one advantage that Aina couldn't compare with. Jisoo and Aina became friends, as expected. They had a lot of common topics. Wang Jung also hoped that Aina could make as many friends as possible when she was here. But when it came to the art club, Wang Jung felt really frustrated. He had never modeled before. After the classes in the afternoon, Wang Jung braced himself for the art club. A real man should always keep his promises. After all, they wouldn't kill him. When he arrived at the art club, Du Qingqing was already waiting at the door. Yo, the busy bee is finally here. It's really not easy to invite you. Du Qingqing ridiculed. Cough, classmate Qingqing, please let me off for Jisoo's sake. If you think I'm not capable for modeling, please don't hesitate to fire me. Du Qingqing coiled her long hair. It was quite noticeable that she took really good care of her hair. Every strand of hair was so smooth and sleek. Girls with long hair and gentle character could always touch the heart of boys, and that image also matched an artist's temperament. You are nervous before we even start, this is not your style. Wang Jung touched his nose. When did he ever have such a style? There were 10 odd people waiting in the studio, most of them girls, with 2 boys in between. The president, Zhang Runan, was also here. She took a look at Wang Jung with a poker face. Take off your clothes. Wang Jung was frightened. Taking off his clothes in front of so many people? The audience laughed. It seemed like Wang Jung was not the first one who had gotten pranked. Du Qingqing held back her laughter and said, the fitting room is just over there. You just need to take off your top. Today we are only drawing a portrait of your upper body. Wang Jung let out a sigh of relief. What a nuisance. Why was there a habit of pranking the newcomers everywhere? The club members all prepared the brushes and the paint. Wang Jung also got out of the fitting room pretty fast, as it wasn't an issue for him to take off his top. But no one could handle the awkwardness of being stared by a tomboy like Zhang Runan. The members, on the other hand, were quite amazed. Wang Jung didn't have a bodybuilder's body, let alone when he had his shirt on. But when he took off his top, the flowing lines of his muscles were truly a pleasant view, especially to an Asian's aesthetic. When people started to enter the mood of creativity, the studio became a lot quieter. Wang Jung maintained a position as required. An artist needed a good model to refer to. Human beings were the most difficult to draw, as they were the most familiar, and that's also the reason why it was more demanding. A good model could inspire the artists. There was only the sound of drawing in the studio room now. It's quite tiring to be a model, keeping the same position for so long. After 1 hour, Wang Jung's first modeling experience was finally over. He himself was quite curious about how himself would look like in the paintings. "You wanna look?" Wang Jung nodded. However, classmate Wang was quite speechless. The person in the picture looked nothing like him, it was a monster. "This is me. We are not cameras. The model is merely our source material, and we have to put our imagination in the drawing. The president's picture is the best." Du Qingqing gasped in admiration. Classmate Wang wasn't curious about her drawing at all. "Superboy," President unusually nodded. "Good, it's all for today. Please hand in your pictures to me." Wang Jung didn't fetch his breath until the Superboy president left. Du Qingqing smiled and said, "Seems like you are afraid of our president." "Well, your president has a strong aura." "Haha, that's true. But it's pretty rare to hear her praise someone. You are quite good. You didn't move at all in 1 hour. It's like you were born to be a model." The models they had before, whether they were professionals or amateurs, often moved around. Models like Wang Jung were too rare. What classmate Wang was most afraid of was the phrase, "born to be a model." He didn't want to have anything more to do with this. "My mission is done. I need to go first." Du Qingqing smiled and said, "Goodbye, and thank you. Ask Susu to treat you to a meal." She couldn't help but smile. What an interesting person. It was no wonder Zissou and Meng Tian would fight over him, but he had a girlfriend already. What a pity. Nevertheless, art was always good. You can be the master in the world of art. When Wang Jung found Aina waiting for him when he stepped out the door, a sudden warmth rushed to his heart. "How come you are here? I was afraid of you getting eaten by those tigresses, so I'm here to save you." "Did you see the president just now? There's only one guy who walked out just now, but isn't the president a girl?" Aina asked with a sense of curiosity, then she finally tumbled when she saw the odd look on Wang Jung's face. "Now you finally understand. It was so painful to be stared at by her for a whole hour. You just made a contribution to art. Anyway, let me give you a reward." With this, she left a small peck on Wang Jung's cheek, like a dragonfly skimming the surface of water. This was not enough. Wang Jung took Aina in his arms and gave her a long French kiss. Aina could barely breathe. Wang Jung wouldn't be planning to let go if they were not in public. "You are getting so much worse," Aina murmured. Wang Jung's eyes took on a hurt expression. "You shouldn't blame it on me. If you really want to blame something, you should blame your beauty. I didn't know you were good at speech. Why is it that I didn't see it before?" Aina rolled her eyes. "Well, I'm a genius. I don't even need to learn." "A genius of 28. Great job. Make fun of me more. You are looking for trouble." "Ah, you want to bully me again." Aina ran away laughing while Wang Jung chased her. How good it would be if time could stop at this moment. Looking at the lovely princess in front of him, Wang Jung was filled with happiness and pride. It didn't matter even if the world would end in the future. That was a problem for the future. As time went by day, the special training members were finally back. Masashi became the captain, while Zhang Shan had surprisingly become the vice captain. Zhou Mu would officially bring forward Zhang Shan's double-degree application to the school. Of course, personally, he suggested that Zhang Shan should have switched majors as well. Zhang Shan had shown his great potential in the special training. After all, he didn't even have any systematic training. All he did was work out to keep himself in shape. His physical fitness was 1 in a million. Due to the influence of his family, Zhang Shan did have an interest in physics. His ambition was shown during the military training, and after this special training, some factors were inspired too. He liked the feeling of battle. The full members of the team were Masashi, Zhang Shan, Ma Xiao, Meng Tian, and Zhang Bing. Bench player, Wan Dao. The whole school was anticipating this meeting. It would be so shameful if they got defeated in the home court. Zhang Shan received a warm welcome when he got back to his dormitory. "Brother Shan, you are so wonderful. I think you are even stronger," Chen Shu said, with a sense of jealousy. His own body was too thin. PFTT, his brain must have gotten squeezed, classmate Ailun ridiculed. Wang Zheng, what happened to you? It's such a pity you couldn't attend the training session, said Zhang Shan. Wang Zheng shrugged his shoulders helplessly. I couldn't help it. My body's fatigue caught up with me. This happens for a couple days every month. Everyone around him stared blankly before laughing out loud. If you can laugh at this, something is definitely up. Hee hee, Brother Shan, Brother Zheng has already gotten a girlfriend. Everyone is looking at him in envy, said Chen Shu. F***ck, it's no wonder he is our dormitory leader. He is always one step ahead of us. Who is it? Could it be Yi Zisu? Asked Zhang Shan. Meng Tian was training with them after all, so it could not have been her. It's not Yi Zisu. The new girl is even prettier than her. Her beauty is indescribable. I have never met such a beautiful and graceful girl before, said Chen Shu as he gestured excitedly. Is it true? Surely you are exaggerating. Nevertheless, congratulations to Brother Zheng. Zhang Shan's demeanor had changed considerably after his special training program had ended. It could be said that while an individual may be gifted with many talents, it is up to the individual to decide what suits him or her the most. With time, one would have to slowly change. As with Zhang Shan, he had felt this change, and despite his childhood dream of pursuing a career in the natural sciences, he was conflicted as he now also wanted to develop himself in the military science department. He possessed an extremely logical mind and spatial awareness. This was extremely useful for swift decision-making during a battle scenario. Most importantly, the battlefield gave Zhang Shan a feeling which he would never experience in the field of physics. On the other hand, Zhang Shan felt that Wang Zheng's situation was truly a pity. The special training was an exceptional opportunity which Wang Zheng failed to capitalize on. However, Wang Zheng possessed even greater talent in the field of physics, and perhaps this was actually the silver lining in the cloud. Yet Wang Zheng was not at all depressed, as he had Aina by his side. Aina helped bring color to Wang Zheng's life. There simply wasn't enough time each day. In addition to his dating life, Wang Zheng continued to train. Despite numerous attempts to call out Bonehead, his mentor never showed. Wang Zheng could only continue with activities that he himself had come up with. The primal regression technique had reached a bottleneck and no progress had been made for some time. However, he still couldn't relax. He could only continue to cultivate his inner strength and not go against the tide. When Meng Tian got back and received news of Wang Zheng getting a girlfriend, she seemed very calm. It was as though she didn't care. Even during her MMA training sessions, she continued to train normally. Furthermore, when she talked, it was only about training. It was as if she could not care less about Wang Zheng's dating life. The Art Society's modeling activity only happened once a week. The vast majority of the time, Wang Zheng spent his time with Aina. The two of them seemed to never run out of conversational topics. Wang Zheng would silently sit next to Aina and listen to the world of the Aslan Empire and its culture. It was truly an elite world. Life had developed in the best way possible, but Aina felt that in the process of all this, its people had forgotten about the beauty of life. However, Aslan was the place that all the people of the Milky Way galaxy aspired to live in. Wang Zheng often talked about the interesting things that happened to him. His early life only comprised of the spirit stick his dad used to hit him with. Following which, he met the old merchant. Now that he thought about it, the old merchant still possessed other tricks. Aina truly admired the old merchant. A seemingly simple bookstore owner possessed such vast knowledge. Crouching tigers and hidden dragons truly did exist among the common populace. One should never look down on them. Although stories of Wang Zheng and Tyrant Sus awkward times were Aina's favorite, when the two of them spoke too enthusiastically, they would often mutter gibberish only understood by the two of them. Wang Zheng as a result still did not understand why Aina would fall in love with him. More or less everyone who knew them did not understand either. Aina gradually assimilated into Ares College's school life. She was very clear that she had to forget her identity as the princess in order to better enjoy her student life. This was not something a normal girl could do. However, Aina wasn't a normal girl. Like Yi Zisu, Yan Xiaoshu, who often got extremely nervous around Aina, also discovered that Aina was blending in and trying to live a normal life while enjoying her time with Wang Zheng. This caused Yan Xiaoshu to feel utmost reverence for Wang Zheng. Wang Zheng was a true man. No, a god of men. Even if Tyrant Su had always looked up to Wang Zheng, his respect had made Wang Zheng extremely happy. These two single brothers had finally gotten attached. This year, the two of them would not need to drink by the lakeside as single men any longer. At Brothers Net Cafe, Wang Zheng had to hone his CT skills every weekend. In addition, Aina loved the way Wang Zheng looked when he battled. In Aina's words, at that point in time, Wang Zheng looked exceedingly cool and amazing. Our dear student Wang also had his own selfish motives. Honestly, he was more concerned about the rewards he would gain from winning. More importantly, a VIP room allowed a couple their privacy. There were too many students around, and if someone were to notice Aina and him doing scandalous things, his reputation would be ruined. Alas, even our dear student Wang felt that he was spoiled. However, after thinking about it, this was a result of his ability. Yan Xiaoshu also brought Mei along. Student Yan wanted to demonstrate his skills in front of Mei. With Rainbow's help, Tyrant Su had finally managed to attain a bronze rank in competitive play. That shiny insignia had improved Tyrant Su's reputation. He was now rushing towards the next rank, silver. Eventually, he hoped to achieve a gold rank, and he would do anything to obtain it so that he could meet his own standards. Yan Xiaoshu and Wang Zheng both had the same thoughts in mind. Lovers needed a private space. Thus, Yan Xiaoshu held Mei's small hands as he led her to a private room. He was truly obstructed. A relationship between males and females is very mysterious. If a couple cannot progress at a point where mutual feelings are at an all-time high, it will only result in a friendship. Looking at it from another angle, such an outcome would be very pathetic. Yan Xiaoshu was confident that Wang Zheng had the same aim in mind. Otherwise, why would a noob-stomping elder run here? Boss was truly being a boss. Regardless of what he did, he would always plan things ahead. Although, after saying all this, once they entered the battle, Wang Zheng would be extremely attentive. He wasn't like the others. If he didn't perform well, he would have to pay a price. Bonehead's training did not allow for any failure. He could not remember the countless times he had been punished and electrocuted anymore, and he would have become an electrical conductor. Do you know who your opponent will be this time? Aina asked curiously. It was impossible for a member of Aslan to not be interested in military matters. In Aslan, every member of society had to go through 2 rounds of military training. Short of extraordinary circumstances, military training was typically unavoidable. As such, members of the royal family also had to undergo military training. As a result, Aslan possessed the ability to rally the entire country to arms and possessed an extremely skilled population. Even a game like CT was played to the highest standards in Aslan. 1 versus 1 or 5 versus 5, Wang Zheng looked at Aina and she blinked her eyes. Let's make things difficult for you. How about 5 versus 5? Wang Zheng smiled as he selected the 5 versus 5 option. And if I win, what will my prize be? Aina cheekily winked at Wang Zheng. Let's see how things go. Dear student Wang looked as though he had been splashed with chicken blood. He would have to perform well this time. Entering matchmaking. In the discussion forum, numerous individuals were currently waiting. 5 versus 5. Every player in the server had heard of Skeleton. In fact, Skeleton was no longer a nameless and reputation-less newbie. Now that he was famous, the moment he appeared, he would be the focus of the enemies. How would he fight? There were just too many variables. With Skeleton's current win rate, he would likely be placed into an extremely high-skilled match. The War God No. 1's disadvantage in group fights would become evident. Welcome, everyone, to today's 5 versus 5 group match. I am Young Deer. Hello, everyone. I am Bubbly Foam, and I will be commentating with Young Deer for today's match. I have always looked up to Skeleton, and I can't believe that my first time commenting one of his matches will be for a 5v5 group battle. Bubbly Foam was a famous beauty among commentators. This time she was specially invited by Young Deer. The two of them were the most well-known CT commentators. It is my honor to be able to work together with Bubbly Foam. Let us see what kind of surprises Skeleton will show us today. Will his War God No. 1 be able to create miracles in a group battle? Young Deer was extremely calm today. After suffering time and time again, Even a pig would learn from its past mistakes. He would first observe the situation before making a comment. The beauty smiled as she asked, "Young dear, I heard that you hold certain prejudices against skeleton. Is that true?" With her oval face, her laughter showed her adorable dimples. It was no surprise why she was bursting with popularity. Professional commentators not only received compensation for their work but possessed their own online shops. They earned quite a sum, even more than certain players. Young deer was also an old fox. He gave her a wry smile. "What do you think? Don't joke around. I am an extremely cautious person. This tightrope situation can easily be overturned. Especially since it's a group battle. The only thing I can do is wish good luck to the ones who will become Skeleton's teammates." Really? Let us wait and see. Everyone, right now what everyone is seeing is the newbie arena's legendary Skeleton's group battle matchmaker. The discussion forum immediately exploded with chatter. What kind of battle would this be? The officials had already been riled up and were currently awaiting the results of the matchmaking. Pretty outstanding guy, silver rank 3. I am not a noob, bronze rank 4. Don't run lowly, silver rank 5. Tom, Dick, and Harry, bronze rank 1. Wang Zheng's win rate was too high. After seeing Tom, Dick, and Harry's portrait light up, it could be seen that this was a rank advancement match. He was trying to rise from bronze rank 1 to silver rank 5. On the enemy team, there were 2 silver ranks and 3 bronze ranks. Tom, Dick, and Harry was extremely nervous. He had to win 2 out of his 3 placement matches to advance in rank. He had already lost 1 and won 1. This match would be the culmination of his hard work for the weekend. When he saw 2 silver ranks, he felt extremely happy. Unfortunately, there happened to be a noob on his team. At that point, his heart sank. Hang on, this ID seems slightly familiar. Wasn't this the player that was extremely popular right now? The enemies have appeared. The red and blue teams both have an individuals hoping to advance to silver rank. This will be a battle where the players will stake it all. We have seen Skeleton's personal skill, but will it stand up to the test of a group battle? Bubbly Foam smiled as she browsed through the opposing players' information. Group battles are completely different from solo fights. Most importantly, one has to coordinate and comply with his team. Young deer looked extremely calm, but deep down he was extremely happy. This time there was a chance. With the situation now, the opposing team would definitely focus their efforts on Skeleton. If he lost, it could be blamed on Skeleton. If they won, but Skeleton got destroyed, he could once again blame Skeleton. This time he had more than a 50% chance of success. However, what was depressing to Young Deer was the fact that Skeleton's match-made teammates were all extremely strong. The highest-ranked player was designated to become the team captain. Thus, the captain would be pretty outstanding guy. "Everyone, this is little brother's advancement match. Please help me out. Please put in your best effort," Tom, Dick, and Harry said anxiously. The advancement match was one which had to be seized by force. Relying on oneself was not enough. It required the strength of the team. Thus, he had to be more polite and sincere. Pretty outstanding guy gave him a slight smile. "Relax, our team has 2 silver ranks, while the enemy team also possesses 2. However, we have a secret weapon." "My god, it's Skeleton. That's wonderful," shouted I am not a noob. He was clearly well versed in the latest CT news and gossip. The 2 silver ranks were extremely calm. Higher ranks not noticing lower ranks was typically quite normal. Regardless, they had definitely heard of Skeleton. "I have an idea. I will take the top lane and block 2 of the enemies. Skeleton will take mid lane and fight one of them. I think that shouldn't be a problem. Lowly and the other 2 will lie in ambush and quickly dispatch the enemy. After that, come and assist me. They will definitely be taken by surprise." Pretty outstanding guy said. The captain has the power to assign tactics. Although Skeleton is famous, he only has experience on individual matches. The ranking list of team matches is determined by every single match, and this is from my experience. Good move. We can gain advantages in the bottom, get back, and finish them off quickly, Tom, Dick and Harry said, with his fists punching in the air. Seems like both sides have assigned tactics. The match is about to begin, said Young Deer. At the same time, the number of viewers kept rising quickly, but it didn't break the record from last match. The audience still felt unsure about what the level of skill would be shown in a 5v5 match. Team matches were usually not as exciting as individual matches. The so-called godlike pentakills only appeared when beginners were all over the place. In this level of games, even if the team was losing, they would still try to avoid this situation. Moreover, once the teams went head-to-head, the brittle skin was no doubt a trash teammate. One could escape one single sniper, but what if there were more? The official website posted an announcement. The publicity was much stronger compared to the last match against Wild King, but the effect was not as good as imagined. It would be untrue to say that Solon felt no pressure reading the data, because he had bet on the game. He was not worried about losing the game, but he didn't expect the audience to not be sold on it. The staff was busy too. Obviously they were feeling the pressure as well. They were bound together for good or ill, and this game would affect their year-end bonus. The official side had done all they could, but some of the audience members were still not quite interested in the role a brittleskin could play in the team match. Especially in a situation like this match, the War God #1 could only play a very limited role. It would be quite boring, no matter the result. Of course, the members of Skeleton Corps were the exception. Wild King played truant. After all, it was not the first time for him. Team match. As a scout, he was fully aware of the importance of an excellent mech in team matches. You could focus on one single enemy, but there were too many unpredictable factors in team matches, and the traps could be all linked with one another. Rainbow was not here because he was carrying out his task. One should be serious at work. Yan Xiaoshu was enjoying the battle at its climax. Who would have thought that In Mei was a master as well? She was a bronze rank 3, which was even higher than him. In between skeleton and a girl, he chose the girl. After all, he would come to a miserable end if he were to ignore In Mei and flee. Chen Shu and Yao Ailin obviously were not restrained, they were screaming and cheering already. Antarctica battlefield. In the world of ice and snow, 10 mecha came from above. 1 minute later, intelligent robots started to march towards each other's bases. Pretty Outstanding Guy smiled and said, "Follow my mech's execution. Victory is in grasp." Victory, Tom, Dick, and Harry shouted, to pump himself up. Pretty Outstanding Guy drove his shiny, Silver Saint Knight mech and marched towards the top. His mobile suit was a scout style as well, and his ability was reliable enough to pin down 2 people. Wang Zheng took the middle lane. It was the first time his War God #1 had stepped on snowy and icy roads, so Wang Zheng needed a bit of time to get used to it. The other 3 guys went to the bottom lane and split into 3 flanks. Seems like our player Skeleton is very confident, and he is not going to be a burden on his teammates. Young Deer started to apply some eye drops to his eyes. This was a sign he was getting ready. The tactics are pretty good. A silver rank on the top lane, and Skeleton is quite capable of taking the middle on his own. There is a 70% winning chance if the 3 guys at the bottom can complete their attack. Bubbly Foam made a very penetrating analysis. The number of spectators was increasing, but it was at a rather slow rate. Just then, the campaign had gone sour. The 5 mecha of the blue team surprisingly did not split up. Instead, they headed towards the bottom lane together. What was going on? They intended to concentrate on breaking through, but even if they could kill all 3 in the bottom, the fort they defended would be destroyed anyway. What was the use of all that effort if they lost the game? Our blue team is very creative, but we don't know whether or not they can move fast enough, said Young Deer. Crush the bottom, go back to support the middle, but there was no way they could make it to the top. Wasn't this bullshit? Bubbly Foam thought to herself, these 5 idiots, if they wanted to fight together, they should have gone into the middle to kill Skeleton. Everyone was kind of speechless, as this fight was completely unorthodox. The strategy was too low level. If they could delay well and have 3 players retreat slowly, they could have a rather good result. Their tactics were just too weak for such a match. Damn, we paid money to watch a match at the kindergarten level. What are they even thinking? That's ridiculous. If you want to go all in, you should go to the middle. The 2 players trying to win the promotion match have really bad luck. The players in the match could not hear the comments. Loli Don't Run was talking to the 2 other players in his lane. Hurry up and kill the 2 of them as soon as possible so that we can go back and aid the top lane. Don't worry, let's go all out. Tom, Dick, and Harry and I am not a noob were very excited, as they were fans of Skeleton. Mecha from the opposite side soon appeared. The two mechas seemed like they were on their own, just two bronze-ranked players. They were seeking their own demise. Don't let them run, hurry. Lowly Don't Run drove his shiny silver hunter mech and rushed over. Upon seeing the silver player making his move, the two bronze players, without a word, rushed out as well. But just at this time, snow started flying off in all directions, and three mecha flanked from the side with guns blazing. The laser rifles roared, and the two mecha on the front also launched an attack. Lowly Don't Run had only fired one shot, and it had missed the target. He was then killed by concentrated fire. The two remaining bronze players had to resist while retreating. Though the situation was quite disappointing, Tom, Dick, and Harry was not too angry. Everyone is in the bottom lane. Go ahead to middle and top. This information was useful enough, especially for the player in the top lane. The ability of a silver rank 3 was sufficient for winning this battle. Tom, Dick, and Harry was trying his best to stall for time. Every minute they stalled improved their chances of victory. Ah, my internet. Tom, Dick, and Harry heard a sound. Pretty Outstanding Guy had gone offline. I Am Not a Noob was distracted. All of a sudden he was hit and his mech exploded. Only one remained. The ice and snow slowed down the speed of the mecha. But the opponents were driving scout mechs, and hence their situation was not as bad. 5 mechs came to surround Tom, Dick, and Harry, and in the middle was a radiant type of mech. It stopped for a second as if it was playing with its prey, then it shot Tom, Dick, and Harry in the head. Triple kill. The radiant type A was a typical pay-to-win mech. It was made in the Aslan Empire. The player Natural King was a bronze rank 1. He was playing to get promoted to silver rank, and he just gotten a triple kill. At first, the audience was quiet for a while. What followed was a buzz of comments. What had just happened? At the moment he got shot, Tom, Dick, and Harry was stupefied. Then he realized that it wasn't unstable internet connection. This was a damn trap, a shameless 7 versus 3. Damn, it just a qualifying round. Why so impudent? All of the hard-earned points from a whole week were wiped out in a day. This was too aggravating. F***ck. Was it something extraordinary to be rich? Natural King could not hold back his laughter. Sure enough, winning is in my destiny. Regardless of who kills Skeleton, so long as he dies, I will give an extra 20,000 federal coins to everyone. It was entertainment, and there were a lot of ways to play. Like Yan Xiaoshu had asked people to help out for his promotion match, but it was not as crazy as this time. Young Deer and Bubbly Foam glanced at each other and said, "Seems like we just saw a pretty rare game. Pretty Outstanding Guy can win an Academy Award for his performance just now." To ensure victory, some people would ask for game throwers. The most effective way was to choose a time to matchmake together. This way your chosen game throwers would be in the same match. In these sort of acting games, we have to say, Pretty Outstanding Guy and Lowly Don't Run acted pretty well. One took the lead to get killed, while the other went offline. It was quite useless if one wanted to complain. These sorts of games happened from time to time, but they didn't happen very often because it was quite expensive. No one would have thought that Skeleton would get involved in this match. The 5 people all selected scout mechs just for their speed. Skeleton had gone to the middle, so he should have been able to aid the situation. From this point in time, the viewer count started to decrease rapidly. Solon and the staff became wild-eyed. Damn, what sort of crazy luck would one have to see something like this? From now on, there wasn't much to watch. 5 scout mechs, 1 radiant type A, 4 Takrama type Bs. Under these circumstances, the match became a game of cat and mouse with 5 cats in the game. The audience didn't spend the money just to be tortured. This match was too disgusting. There were no techniques involved, it was just a sham. Natural King, on the other hand, made an outrageous flaunt. "I'm just too rich, so I play for the sense of invincibleness. You are merely a brittleskin. Let me terminate you." It was a bummer for him that he couldn't achieve a pentakill. The members of Skeleton Corps were stupefied too. What in the world just happened? This group of people was too shameless. What was the point of winning this way? I don't know whether it's called all warfare is based on deception. Though it's not so fair, Skeleton still has to face the situation. Will he surrender or will he quit? Young Deer said as though he was forced to. But anyone with a discerning eye could easily see that he was laughing inside. What a pity. We were looking forward to an exciting battle. Unfortunately, the ending is that the miracle of Skeleton has come to an end. On the battlefield, 5 scout mecha were heading to corner War God number 1. At this time, instead of accelerating and going to attack the fort, the War God number 1 walked directly towards them. Actually, with Skeleton's speed, it was still possible to win the game. Skeleton, my god, forget it. Let's forfeit the game and make a complaint. They are so shameless. I am not a noob, cried in anger. His voice was quite young. Tom, Dick, and Harry sighed and said, yeah, these folks are shameless. Don't let them have an easy win. If they were to kill you, we would be angry. Wang Jung didn't answer. He preferred to let his actions speak. Just like what Bonehead said, the best way to deal with one's enemies was to kill them. An aura of death could be seen in Wang Jung's eyes. System alert. Blizzard coming, blizzard coming. The War God number 1 was still marching towards the 5 scout mecha. I have to say, Skeleton's decision is just impulsive. That's really unwise. If it was me, I would have definitely forfeited the game and then complained, Young Deer slowly said. Bubbly Foam took a brief glance at Young Deer and said, some people will never understand what courage is. Young Deer was not angry at Bubbly Foam's idealistic view. He gave her a wry smile and said, courage is sometimes just an ordinary man putting on a brave front. The forum was in complete confusion. Everyone was in shock. There was no undoing what had been done. The result would be broadcasted live. Although it was infuriating, nothing could be done as no one had expected this situation. There were many people who often skirted the line between what was right and what was not. If anything, one could only blame their bad luck for the current situation. Having good teammates was entirely a function of luck. The blizzard's occurrence had caused the mecha's speed to decrease while severely obscuring everyone's vision. However, such a blizzard would not last long, and better mecha would not be affected as severely by the environmental conditions. Many people could no longer watch the show. Although there were still people tuning into the livestream, it could not compare to the number of viewers leaving. There was only half as many viewers as before. It was clear that many people were unwilling to see the result. Solon was flabbergasted. This was the first day of which his grand plan was being rolled out. On the moon, McLaren was also watching intently, a cup grasped tightly in his hand. Sometimes, one needed luck to achieve success. Make sure he can't escape. Give me the finishing blow. If I get the kill on him, I will increase your reward by 30,000 coins. Natural King was very excited. It was as though his happiness was at its peak. Having the chance to kill Skeleton in front of such a large audience would be absolutely amazing. This was why he loved playing court. He enjoyed crushing his enemies with the help of his wealth, dominating them until they screamed for their parents. The radar suddenly started beeping. The War God number 1 had appeared in their attacking range. The blizzard was slowly receding. Although it had a slight impact on the situation, the effect was mostly negated. Both teams accelerated towards each other, with the blue team maintaining their formation. The rich man was protected in the center with his 4 other teammates surrounding him closely. In such a situation, the power of the individual mech was even more obvious. So what if it was Skeleton? So what if it was a War God number 1? Miracles did not come around every day. The War God number 1's speed increased more and more. It flew over the rugged, icy terrain with great agility, and it was completely different from its initial acceleration speed. Yet one had to know that exceptional speed might not be the best approach, as braking in such slippery terrain was perilously hard. Laser fire blanketed the snowy plains, coating it with a resplendent array of lights. Wang Jung calmly advanced amidst the salvo of fire, holding his laser rifle in his left hand while his right hand clutched an alloy knife. He had finally entered the blue team's firing range. Boom! It was a competition in one's accuracy. F***ck, the damned snow is affecting my vision. No need to aim, just spray and pray. With so many of us here, we are bound to destroy him. F***ck, if any of you guys actually destroy him, we will lose our compensation. After Natural King spoke, the 4 other players reduced their rate of fire. However, Skeleton's speed did not decrease. He continued to advance, with his laser rifle constantly firing. Boom, 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 your mom, that bastard hit us. I've been hit. What are you worried about? You have energy shields, these explosions are meaningless. Skeleton's laser hit them again and again. The other 4 no longer cared about the extra prize. If they lost, they would absolutely lose all of their reputation. A firefight ensued as explosions echoed around the battlefield. At this point, the war god number 1 suddenly leaned over. It had actually started skirting around the battlefield at a 45-degree angle to the ground using inertia to maintain his balance. Skeleton held his laser rifle in his left hand, calmly firing not at one target but at all 5 of the mecha simultaneously. However, the 5 of them were still standing in a row, firing wildly. Skeleton's war god number 1 was like a snowy ghost, weaving in and out, while the laser beams were only able to cause explosions of snowy flowers as they missed him again and again. Ironically, this obstructed their vision even more. F***ck. He disappeared. No, wait, he's next to us. A loud ringing sound could be heard in each of the blue team's mecha, indicating an enemy was in extremely close proximity. All of them had already drawn their lightsabers. At this point, a pile of snow exploded and Skeleton's war god number 1 could be seen falling from the sky, and the 5 scout mecha were already fully prepared to fight. Destroy him! Shouted Natural King hysterically. At this point in time, it didn't matter who killed him. Snow slowly drifted down. The 5 seemingly sluggish scout mecha suddenly burst into action. Truth be told, they were not inexperienced noobs. Even the worst one among them was a bronze player. Although Natural King looked dumb, his mech reacted the fastest. His lightsaber was the first one to lunge towards the war god number 1. At this point, the war god number 1's brakes kicked in and the mech plummeted. Pushing the mech to its limit, the war god number 1 used its great plummeting speed to increase its speed of rotation as it spun downwards. The war god number 1 fell straight into the center of the enemies. Lasers firing, the alloy knife dancing amongst a string of blossoming flowers of fire. Boom, 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 double kill, triple kill, quadruple kill. The system announcements increased in volume intensity with each consecutive kill. Bang! The Radiant Type A mech's energy shield was destroyed and the mech was knocked down by the war god number 1, his feet pressed firmly on the mech. A laser rifle was pointed directly at Natural King's head. Natural King was completely defeated. All he had seen was an explosion of snow, followed by a ring of light which brought with it a string of fiery explosions before silence. No, please don't kill me, let me win. I will give you a 100,000 coins, Natural King shouted. This was his last chance. You either live as a coward, or you are reborn again in battle. Boom, Skeleton's laser rifle flashed 4 times. Mech destroyed. Pentakill. The system announcer screamed wildly. God! Red team win! A cry rang out. Bubbly Foam jumped up excitedly. She had completely forgotten her previous analysis and was instead endlessly roaring in excitement. Everyone went mad. Boss, boss, it's about to explode, it's going to explode, it's definitely exploding. In the livestream chatroom, the viewership counter's dwindling number of viewers suddenly exploded upwards, like a rocket launching into space. In a short span of time, it had reached the stratosphere. Solin's hand clutched the table's edge tightly. I want an immediately analysis of the video, he commanded. Boss, it's a call from headquarters. Solin paused for a moment, calming himself before saying, put it through. It was McLaren. Congratulations, Solin. Thank you, Chairman. Although it was a simple congratulations, the meaning was extraordinary. It was as McLaren had said, success required a certain element of luck. Boss, the 2 new servers to accommodate for increased traffic are full. The number of VIPs has exceeded 500,000. Even his workers were rambling incoherently at this point. Boss, the ones who have become VVIPs have exceeded 200,000. We have set a new record. Boss, the number of hits have exceeded 2 million. The situation was extremely wonderful for Solin. You either live as a coward, or you are reborn again in battle, Solon mused over those words. No one else left the live stream. Those who had left, upon hearing the news, immediately regretted their decision. At Brothers Net Cafe, Yan Xiaoshu, who was hugging In Mei, gave her a deep kiss while cheering excitedly. This time, In Mei did not reject his advances. There truly existed such tyrannical people in this world. Congratulations, player Tom, Dick, and Harry, you have been promoted to Silver Rank 5. Tom, Dick, and Harry stared blankly as he sat at home. How was this possible? He had been promoted, he had failed for an entire month, but he had succeeded under such impossible circumstances? Young Deer's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. That bastard could win even under such circumstances. How could anyone survive that onslaught? This was the Skeleton Corpse Festival. I'm not afraid. Countless people from numerous backgrounds were all shouting and cheering together. This was the greatest display of strength. This was what it meant to be a hero. No one left as they were waiting for the video analysis to come out. You either live as a coward or are reborn again in battle. The huge title came out and numerous people rushed over. The ones who were already streaming were extremely lucky. A slow-motion video started playing. Only by analyzing the battle frame by frame could one see what had occurred during the blizzard. The blue team's unscrupulous blind firing did not even manage to hit a hair of the War God number 1. They were overconfident. On the other hand, the War God number 1's control was like that of a snow ghost. What was supposed to be a restriction on mecha ended up becoming the War God number 1's strength. This is the advancing God drive technique executed while sliding F***CK. How is this possible? Young Deer suddenly screamed. Although his personality left much to be desired, his knowledge was superb. The blizzard affected the accuracy of the 5 mecha, but it did not affect the War God number 1. Every shot made by the War God number 1 hit its target. At this point, the video was edited to show a 360-degree view of the situation. Regardless whether the War God number 1 was sliding and firing from left to right or right to left, every single hit landed at the exact same position. This showed that the individual had supreme confidence in his firing skills. This proved that the last fight with Wild King was not a fluke. Skeleton's War God number 1 was calm and cold-blooded as he slaughtered his enemies on the snowy plain. This was in contrast to its maniacal maneuvers. However, Skeleton's strategy of a close combat approach was extremely dangerous. As the War God number 1 leaned forward during its advance, its momentum allowed the mech to keep its mechanical frame close to the ground. Thus, even with such uncertain terrain underfoot, the War God number 1 had managed to maintain full control and could accelerate quickly. Furthermore, it was from a direction no one expected. As a result, this dangerous approach was actually the safest method to victory. Although everyone understood that, executing it was a completely different story. In the blink of an eye, the War God number 1 had rushed in front of the blue team. Natural King and the rest had already drawn their blades and were prepared to chop Skeleton into pieces. However, the brilliant use of an emergency brake maneuver had thrown them off. Upon braking, the War God number 1's engine went into reverse and allowed the mech to forcefully land. All of this was part of Skeleton's calculations. What happened next was terrifying to behold. There was a move that could have only been executed after sheer practice and endless repetition in a deadly snow environment. Karlman's Tornado of Death. That year, Mars Karlman had faced 15 enemies on Mars Icefield and won with this very move. However, that was done in a mech that was specially adapted for the blizzard environment. This was a War God number 1, a mech completely unsuited for the weather. Even if one used the Tornado of Death, it was unfeasible that one would emerge unscathed. Once the video analysis came out, everyone could feel a sense of fervent bewilderment. As the video was played back frame by frame, it was clear that the sparks flying off Skeleton's alloy knife were not made by attacking his opponents. Rather, the sparks were from Skeleton deflecting saber strikes from the blue team. In the blink of an eye, Skeleton had deflected all of their attacks and followed up with shots fired from his laser rifle. In such close proximity, Skeleton managed to deliver headshots at near point-blank range. Within this short exchange, he had killed 4 of them. The closer one was to the enemy, the more intense the fight would be. In addition, the previous fight had exhausted them, and it would have been more than enough to destroy them. However, what was most important was that bastard's control. His mind and body were synchronized to such a degree. An ordinary person could not possibly replicate what he did. Tornado of death plus dual wielding a gun and blade. The video paused at this moment. The laser rifle and alloy knife were pointed in different directions and held at different angles. The mech itself was pointed in a third direction. This was the multitasking ability to dual wield. When the match ended, people were already going crazy. After watching the analysis, everyone went absolutely ballistic. This was truly an example of godly piloting, pentakill. It would forever be engraved in their hearts. However, another word was to be announced: God. This was the legendary announcement. Being able to kill 5 enemy mecha alone, dealing at least 80% of the damage to each one, while obtaining 5 kills within 5 minutes. Even if it was a chain of kills, it would trigger the announcement of the highest prestige in the CT battlefield: God. The skeleton god had finally descended. The cheers and applause were thunderous, and the two announcers barely had any time left to speak. Given a battle of this sort, they were at a loss too. The interview that was planned for Skeleton after the match didn't happen as Skeleton had already left. Actually, Student Wong had waited for a while, but after realizing that no one was paying any attention to him, he got embarrassed and left. He felt that there actually wasn't any questions that were worth asking. $10,000 for a question, how could such offers be real? Brother Shu, please count me in. I'm the one who was fighting with Skeleton God in that battle. I'm not a noob, please I beg you, let me join. I am not a noob, had already made dozens of applications to join, but Chen Shu and Yao Ailun were already very busy. That damned nouveau riche, where had he gone at this critical period of time? The moment Rainbow got on the line, his first words were, "It is so bustling, what did I miss?" Giant Rainbow. Go take a look, quick, tornado of death and double control. Skeleton God did the impossible again. Ultimate God pentakill. Rainbow was stunned for a moment, then he came a sudden burst of vulgarities. He quickly rushed into the VVIP where the clarity and definition were the best. Although the match was ending, the numbers of spectators were not reducing. This could be done over and over again. Damn it, I've practiced the tornado of death for a month only to end up taking a stroll at the starting area. I used to think that this move was only good looking and that it was always better to be simple and practical on the battlefield. But I did not expect this kind of trick to be used in actual combat. It defies the gods. These kinds of moves are very dangerous. I saw someone use it once. They spun one circle and only ended up making themselves dizzy. Double control, I've heard that to train for it, one is required to practice using chopsticks with both hands. Wang Jung retreated, opened his arms, and said, "Lovely little princess, come here and give me a hug." Aina couldn't contain her feelings of admiration for Wang Jung. The difficult level of this kind of attack would never be possible without having gone through very tough training. "How did you do it?" she asked as she walked over obediently. Wang Jung held Aina gently and placed her on his lap. He could finally show off a little. "I'm telling you, I am a genius. I am going to collect my payment now, with interest on top of that." Aina rolled her eyes, giving a look of having been smitten. Girls should be conquered, and she loved Wang Jung when he was overbearing and courageous. Wang Jung only let go of Aina after a round of hot kissing to let her catch her breath. Aina gently punched Wang Jung. "You are so daring. Other people wouldn't even breathe the air that I exhale, but you are bullying me every day. I didn't come from far away only to let you bully me. You are the princess of Aslan, but here, I am the one who takes charge," Wang Jung said. And without giving Aina a chance to protest, he started kissing her passionately again. "If you are not convinced, I am going to kiss you until you are." Before long, Aina could only obey. But this rascal's tongue was very cheeky, and he started to French kiss her with his tongue. At this moment, something hit the door and in rushed Yan Xiaoshu. Wang Jung and Aina quickly separated, but only at the lips. Wang Jung could not throw Aina off, nor could he ever bring himself to. "Yan Xiaoshu, are you trying to seek death?" This rascal, of all the times to arrive, he would only arrive when he wanted to. And Mei was behind him. When she saw this scene, she understood what was going on. She also got bullied in this way before. She, come here. This pair of brothers is good for nothing. They just want to have their way with us ladies all the time. You arrived at the perfect time. Aina's face was red. Haha, don't blame me, boss. This is a big development. Skeleton God has sword again, getting a pentakill. It's not just a godly pentakill, but a super godly pentakill. Yan Xiaoshu had a feeling that he was about to fly. Because of this feeling, he kissed in May. He was finally advancing the relationship between the both of them. Wang Zheng was taken aback by this guy's impulsive behavior. It was fortunate that he did not tell him. Even the little things like this would surprise Yan Xiaoshu. You will treat us to a round of meals. It was also not known whether In Mei was always hanging around Aina intentionally. If so, she was a professional at it. No problem, boss. Let me tell you, if you want to progress, you have to believe in Skeleton God, Yan Xiaoshu said at the back. You're always missing the main point, you rascal, Wang Zheng said while shaking his head. Looking at the two girls walking in front, Yan Xiaoshu finally came to his senses. How could beauty be so cold? He realized that boss was still smarter. He could slowly view the replay when he gets back, but if he offended in May, he could say goodbye to happy times. Let's go. Tonight we'll have a good feast. You pick the place, it's my treat, Wang Zheng said. Come to think of it, after so many battles, it was about time to distribute the money. Wow, had I known this, I shouldn't have eaten earlier, Yan Xiaoshu said while laughing. Then we should eat more. And Mei ridiculed Wang Zheng as if she had to in order to feel comfortable. She, you wouldn't mind, right? As you wish. The four of them laughed. Jokes aside, Wang Zheng could feel the battle energy in his chest getting stronger. He didn't understand the death gyro. It was totally an instinctive reaction. The plum pile training was based on the concept of pace. Only by using this kind of attack could he maintain his center of gravity. He borrowed the momentum of the moment to execute it. As for double control, given Skeleton's crazy training routine, what was this compared to that? Aina's heart was still beating very hard. The reason was because she realized that she was losing more and more control of herself. Wang Zheng's every move was making her smitten. What was wrong with her? Data bulletin regarding the War God #1 regular armor. The solar system's latest 3 most popular armor. Heavenly Umbra Calamity Type 3, Aslan Super Mecha, All-Weather Scout Type. Aggressive combat effectiveness, but it is difficult to operate. It is still difficult even in CT, but if it can be played to its highest potential, it can crush the gods, also known as the Terminator models. Atlantis, Dragon's Roar, Atlantis Republic's Super Mecha. It is the king of naval warfare. In water battlefields, it is known as an overpowered mech. It is the favorite of players who love naval warfare. War God #1. Practice machine. The popular quarterly competition was very intense. The database was also updated constantly, but for some high-end mecha, their performance could not be copied completely. But in general, they performed at about 90% of the actual thing. These mecha were highly sought after by the high-end players. Currently in military research, the major federations, republics, and empires were mainly focused on funding the development of mecha. Since the ban on weapons of mass destruction, warships and mecha were now the key assets in battle. The high mobility of the mecha had become an increasingly important stat. Many scientists predicted that as technology advanced and the mecha became smaller in size, the mecha would become the main power in combat. The combination of human and mechanical civilization would be at its highest level. However, under such fierce competition, for the permanently free War God #1 to rise to becoming the third most popular mech was already a miracle. Many people initially thought that it was an official mistake, or that the latest of a super mech was called the War God #1. When Skeleton's latest match ended, the War God #1 just barely squeezed past the Republic of Madagascar's Demon King Super Mech to take third place. Skeleton Corps members were now no longer just from Asia, not even just from Earth. Even players from Mars as well as the Moon were starting to join. The most recent victory marked the 9-game winning streak. This win rate wasn't that amazing. There were masters who had more than 20-game winning streaks. But no one was able to achieve such a win rate with the War God #1. The players had also realized that in the recent 2 battles, Skeleton seemed to have been under the influence of some intense aggressiveness. Natural King was also unlucky. His title lasted for 3 months in the end under the eyes of the audience. Did he think that everyone was blind to his unscrupulous actions of bribing other players? But no one was concerned about his antics anymore, some even wanted to thank him. Without the effort he put in, how could the battle have been so exciting? The only real pity was that the originally planned interview ultimately never took place. The official statement given was that the announcers were too shocked after watching the battle and the staff forgot to remind them. This was quickly explained and forgotten. Bubbly Foam also expressed her apology on her own social media platform. Although she had casted a lot of intense high-tier games, she was baffled by his battle and thus forgot to ask the questions. People would always be more forgiving towards a beautiful girl. Also, Skeleton's words were a classic that had become quite popular. When the battle was about to end, he said the words, "You either live as a coward, or be reborn again within battle." And with a chorus of amen, hallelujah etc. The opponent will be finished. Although it was a terrible mech, no one was able to stop players from using the War God #1. Besides, it could change the person's attitude, forcing them to become more cautious and to pay attention to the environment. Although not using the War God #1 would only result in victory, such a victory was not as cool nor as satisfying. This trend had been gaining more and more popularity. It was the most popular in Asia. Of course, amidst this bustling scene, some experts had begun to stir. Their positions at the high tiers had received strong challenges, and questions had been asked. But at the same time, for an expert to fight against the lower tier arena would be an embarrassment for them. The high tier and low tier scenes were two totally different things. What was achieved in the low tier would be impossible in the high tier. The opponents were not pigs, and they were not prone to rash decisions. The pentakill, killing the others without taking more than 80% damage, was the limit. The knowledgeable people knew that this was the reality. Only those at a lower tier would make a fuss over this. Only newcomers like Wild King would accept this kind of stupid invitation. The others would be dismissive. Even a win would be distasteful. Fighting in these kinds of battles would be akin to lowering one's own standings. Although the scene was bustling, the professionals and master players did not comment. But some uncouth people had proudly announced that they were able to single-handedly destroy Skeleton, attracting the ire of the rest of the players. Regardless of the situation, Solon was extremely happy. He had set a new record, so the first step of his plan had succeeded. He felt as though a huge weight was off his shoulders. If it had not happened, the consequences would be unimaginable. Right now, Solon's new priority was regarding Lin Weiyan's concert on Earth. The company Natural Echoing Sounds was quite mysterious. They seemed as though they had no concern for money. Although Lin Weiyan was extremely popular, most of her endorsement events were for public welfare. Even though they had no regard for money, Solon was still extremely hard-working, so he managed to broker excellent terms for their arrangement. Regardless if it was the plan for Skeleton or for the Asian CT region, all of it would rise to a new level soon. It has to be said that the TV rights for broadcasting the concert had already been bought at sky-high prices. Furthermore, this was Lin Weiyan's first time performing on Earth. Naturally, the policemen of the capital were extremely busy and nervous. The more people there were, the more important it was to prevent troublemakers from arising. Recently, with the princess's visit to the Solar System Federation, Earth had an increase in exposure. With Lin Weiyan coming down to release her new record, it showed that the Aslan Empire was willing to cooperate with the Solar System Federation. In terms of socio-economics and especially when it came to technology, the Solar System Federation was severely lacking and required the assistance of the Aslan Empire. Despite all this, they still wanted to retain a sense of bearing and hence had to do a good job. It was rumored that a large portion of the VIP tickets had already been reserved by the higher echelons in the numerous social and economic circles. However, the concert was still predominantly for the youth, especially those still in school. Weiyan's biggest fans were in charge of obtaining the tickets for everyone, but even they had issues obtaining them. Wang Jung held no interest towards this. He felt that paying a sum to listen to the concert on his Skylink was sufficient. However, he could not help but be affected by the excitement as the hype for the concert far exceeded that of the tri-college exchange and competition. Tyrant Su was willing to pay any price to make May happy. It was hard to imagine that he had managed to obtain 2 tickets. Even without saying how much he had spent on them, His dedication and effort had made her very happy. What was truly fortunate was that Aina and Wang Jung felt the same way. Although they liked the music, they were not rabid fans. The school's preparations had gone into full swing. Zhang Shan was barely seen and Wang Jung had only bumped into Meng Tian just once ever since she came back from her special training. It could be said that this time, the training was extremely secretive. Wang Jung continued to attend class and train as per normal, spending the rest of his time with Aina. The two of them enjoyed exploring the capital together and Wang Jung had even managed to amass a small fortune. After his last treat, he realized that his bank account had received tens of thousands of credits. This was a huge sum to Wang Jung, enough to make it so that he no longer had to worry about his future school fees and living expenses. Although Aina was a princess, she was not haughty. On the other hand, she was not interested in expensive things but enjoyed the simple street-side attractions. Wang Jung's first gift was a small glass pendant with a bear engraved onto it. It was carved by hand and only cost 10 credits. He felt that it looked adorable and thus bought it on impulse. However, he did not expect the quality to be so shabby. However, Aina still loved it and wore it. Dear student Wang couldn't help but feel extremely fortunate. Sometimes he even wondered if this was the legendary sweetness after bitterness. It was no wonder people often said that college life was the most beautiful, even if it was a military college. 2 tables in the canteen were joined together. A small group of people with solemn expressions were gathered around it before they suddenly burst out into laughter. What in the world? How could this be possible? Tyrant Su said depressingly. His face was full of makeup and was barely any different compared to that of an opera performer. 1. And Mei smiled as she patted Yan Xiaoshu. Good boy, time for another round. She took out a tube of lipstick and drew another cross onto an empty spot on his face. The ones playing were Wang Jung, Yan Xiaoshu, Yao Ailun, Chen Shu, Aina, Yi Zisu, and Mei, and Du Qingqing. Card games were eternal and they were playing blackjack. When the guys lost, the girls would use lipstick to draw on their faces. If the girls lost, slips of paper would be stuck to their faces. Without question, the 2 most impressive players were Wang Jung and Yao Ailun. Chen Shu and Tyrant Su were the sacrifices. On the side of the girls, Aina and Du Qingqing were extremely pitiful. Numerous strips of papers had been stuck onto them. Although Wang Jung was slightly reluctant to do so, Aina was extremely happy. Wang Jung, have you and Yao Ailun trained in this before? Why aren't you two losing? Du Qingqing asked in frustration. The 2 of them were targets of hostility. Yao Ailun adjusted his golden-rimmed spectacles, his eyes flashing with wisdom. This is actually just a simple mathematical problem. You can easily calculate the odds. Wang Jung, how about you? I have never seen you doing any calculations, and Mei stared at him as she shouted. Even my Tyrant Su cannot keep this up any longer. Wang Jung shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly and said, I have good luck. In actuality, Wang Jung was also calculating the odds. However, it was all instinctive. Doing such mental calculations was extremely easy for him. Furthermore, he was playing with a bunch of newbies. When he played with the old merchant, that was when things turned nasty. The 2 of them had set upon an agreed time limit and even tried to distract each other actively. However, Wang Jung usually lost so terrifyingly that one would piss their pants. Although the old merchant was extremely old, it was amazing how agile his mind still was. If you call this luck, then I think you should be known as the god of gamblers. Yi Zisu laughed. She, is this your first time playing this? Aina smiled and nodded her head. Actually, it didn't matter what game they played. It was the atmosphere that mattered most. Aina was like a curious baby with a cute expression on her face. Wang Jung sneakily tugged at Aina's hand from below the table. The guys were very casual, but the girls were extremely focused. I don't want to play anymore. Playing with you physics department students is just too exhausting. The competition is going to start in 3 days and I don't even know how Zhang Shan and Meng Tian are doing. The 2 of them are the pride of us freshmen. I hope they can win some glory for our sake, and Mei said, before taking a wet towel to clean Yan Xiaosu's face. We have Masasi this time, so there shouldn't be any problems, right? Yan Xiaoshu said. Don't be overly confident in the Moon Man's strength. Apollo and Zeus College are not to be trifled with. This time we are just aiming not to lose too disastrously, Yao Ailun said as he smiled. Brother Ailun, it can't be that exaggerated, right? Isn't our team really strong this time? Chen Shu asked curiously. Hee, how could we be the only college to recruit foreign talent? The strong want to get stronger. Furthermore, they will do their best to train the most talented. Although Earth's standards are lower, if you think about it, numerous elites of Aslan are from Earth. Yao Ailun replied coolly, mimicking Agent 007, too. Doesn't that mean that we are going to get destroyed? Chen Shu asked frustratedly. Even the girls felt slightly worried. We have no other choice. From what I know, the other two colleges possess extremely strong experts. How do you know? Du Qingqing asked doubtfully. I'm sure you all know of Wild King. That bastard is a new freshman from Apollo College. He is currently a member of Skeleton's army and he loves to play court. However, even with his skill, he is only fit to be a substitute. The rest of them looked at each other, but Yao Ailun looked as though he had not finished speaking. This exchange is extremely important. The ones who perform exceptionally will gain the privilege of representing Earth in the Solar System Federation's Military School Grand Tournament. Thus, some of those individuals who usually do not compete will be out as well. Yi Zisu nodded her head. What he says is true. The mecha used for the competition have been sponsored by OMG. Those who participate in the competition upon graduation will likely become a pillar of the army. Most of them directly enter the Solar System Federation army. The group had stunned looks on their faces. Although the Solar System Federation was part of the Milky Way Alliance, within it were three large factions: the Earth Federation, the Moon Federation, and the Mars Federation. Each of them had their own garrison of troops and they were of a lower rank compared to the Solar System Federation's army. The Solar System Federation possessed the troops of the highest caliber and their strength was something an ordinary army could not compete with. Military students all aspired to enter the Solar System Federation army as that was the only way to enter the broader stage to expand their horizons. It can't be. Wouldn't we be cheering for nothing? Everyone was hoping that we would have an exhilarating victory. And Mei said dejectedly. It could be seen that these weren't just words to frighten them. Everything is dictated by one's strength. How could it be easy to rise from the bottom? Furthermore, Masashi can't be relied upon when all's said and done. He might just leave at any moment, Yao Ailun said, as he cleaned his spectacles. I couldn't tell that you were such a pessimistic individual, and Mei said, as she looked at Yao Ailun. Yao Ailun gave a wry smile. I just like to pursue the truth. FK, we will just react to the situation. We aren't from the military department, so let's just await Lin Weiyun's concert. Yan Xiaoshu changed the subject. Wang Zheng felt great regret. Such a great opportunity would definitely be a lot harder than his CT games. No matter how hard it was to play CT, he could not experience the collision and intertwining of life and death in it. It was all going so well, but that D-Ned bonehead had to ruin everything. With his strength, even if he could not be a main member, he would not have been chased away so easily either. Regardless, what was supposed to happen would happen. Zeus and Apollo Military College's interviewers had arrived. Ji naturally received them with the highest of standards and the school itself was bustling with activity. The competition would not begin immediately, the reception would start with the students themselves. Ares College's students would organize representatives to engage the students from other colleges. With the competition as the main focus, there would still be interactions and activities. However, the finale would culminate with the battle between the three. Apollo College's captain was Campbell. He was in his third year in the commander's department and the champion of the previous meet. He was also the president of the student council and possessed unparalleled prestige in Apollo College. Zeus College's captain was known as Lear Kronos. He was a freshman and chairman of the student council. He was also from the commander's department and was new. No one had ever heard of a freshman being the chairman of the student council. His fame was different from Campbell's. It looked as though Zeus College was planning to nurture their freshmen quite seriously. Ares College's captain was Masashi. He was also a freshman from the commander's department. It could be seen that Zeus College and Ares College were going to use such a method to challenge Apollo College. It looked as though Apollo College had to do more to ensure the success of their future competitions. Although they were competitors, Campbell's entrance received the loudest cheers. He could be considered a celebrity in the military colleges. After he graduated, he would likely enter the Solar System Federation Army's Ace Fleet. In his situation, he would likely be promoted to a lieutenant almost immediately and surpass what many took years to achieve. 1. Web links. 2. This is in reference to James Bond. Campbell was well known for looking at the bigger picture. He was multi-talented and was crowned as the all-rounded commander by the students of Apollo Military College. Furthermore, he was known as Earth's strongest student. On one hand, the competition was meant to be a place for the students from different colleges to have a setting to interact. On the other hand, it was meant for the participating students to get to know each other better. As a result, conflict was needed. Everyone improving their skills together would be for the best. Actually, all of it was nonsense. The most important thing was for the students to fight it out, victory at all costs. As the competition approached, the students who came from other colleges could choose to listen in at any of the numerous classes at Ares College. As a result, the teaching staff was extremely attentive and wished to demonstrate their full abilities to prevent the other colleges from laughing at them. This was not a one-off occurrence. As they were the host, the guests were scrutinizing everything in great detail. The students that were brought over were all experts who were here to compete, and if news leaked out that the school was ridiculed, they would not have any face left if it were to spread. However, this was simply what the press loved to do. The competition between the three military colleges would definitely be on the headlines. In any case, during the last exchange, Ares College had embarrassed themselves greatly. One member of the teaching staff had been questioned by the students and was unable to give satisfactory answers. As a result, that member of staff had even resigned. Although it was not a large issue, under such special circumstances, the situation had blown up and affected the college and the individual's personal pride. However, there were those who did not care at all. One of them would be Xiao Fei. Although she did not pay the situation much heed, she had still very responsibly said that she was unparalleled in the Solar System Federation. There was no one who would dare challenge her. Her class was also one of the most anticipated ones. In Ares College, she was probably the most outstanding staff member around. Xiao Fei's class was extremely engaging. Aina and Wang Zheng were usually the focus of attention in the physics class, and thus they opted to find a quiet corner to sit in. In order to not be distracted, Yao Ailun and Chen Shu remained in their previous center row seats. Xiao Fei couldn't do any information about Wang Zheng. Although she did not like inattentive students, she knew that Wang Zheng only paid selective attention. Repeating something that a genius already knew was a form of torment, and thus she closed one eye towards the situation. There were several foreign students in the class. Xiao Fei knew that they were from other colleges and did not pay them much attention. She taught as per usual and did not change the way she did things. From their uniforms, there were 2 students from Apollo College and 3 from Zeus College. Originally, Wang Zheng didn't pay much attention to them, but suddenly he started staring blankly at one of the students for a brief moment. Of the students from Zeus College, 2 were males and 1 was a female, and he actually recognized the female student. Yu Jing. She had transferred schools to Zeus Military College. Although that was the case, she didn't seem like a physics department student, so what was she doing here? The 2 guys beside her did not seem like they were from Earth. They were likely from the moon. "What beauty are you looking at? You're completely spellbound," Aina quietly whispered. Wang Zheng revealed a bitter smile. "It's my and Xiaosu's worst enemy." Wang Zheng was actually innocent. He was just responsible for sending a letter, but for some strange reason, Yu Jing seemed to hate him even more for that. Aina did not have a very deep impression of Yu Jing. Only after being reminded by Wang Zheng did she finally remember. As a princess of the Aslan Empire, people like her were so common that they were like grains of sand. However, in Yu Jing's world, Aina was the true almighty princess. To Yu Jing, although it was now in a different capacity, she was finally back. She had been forced away while Yan Xiaoshu and that bastard Wang Zheng had entered Ares College. In fact, she heard that B*****H Zisu was very close to them. Yu Jing was so displeased that she could not swallow such a fact down. One has to rely on themselves to struggle against fate. Her family had managed to gain the backing of an even greater family, and she wanted to retrieve all that she had lost. Before she came, she had already thoroughly researched the situation behind Wang Zheng and Yan Xiaoshu. Wang Zheng was in the physics department and was highly prized by the professor. That useless scum with a genetic score of 28 had actually entered the physics department. Wasn't this just a dream? Yu Jing could not believe that Wang Zheng had managed to enter the physics department based on his merit. There was definitely something behind the scenes. It was highly likely it was due to Xie Yuxin's influence. Xie Yuxin was Ji Yutei's grandson and was Wang Zheng's brother for life. As for that Xiao Fei, Yu Jing believed that she was not as honest and virtuous as people thought. Becoming a professor at such a young age definitely meant that she had taken some shortcuts. How could a school which had spent 4 years at the bottom of the rankings hovering between life and death possibly experience a reversal of fortune? She truly hated Yan Xiaoshu, Wang Zheng, Yi Zisu, Aries College, basically all of them. Only when she could have all of them below her foot would she finally be able to scrub all her humiliation away. The first step would be to destroy Aries College's reputation. The audacity of such a college to dare to compete with Zeus College. Time passed and the lesson ended. The entire class was filled with raucous applause. The students demonstrated their enthusiasm and excitement to be taught by such an intelligent and beautiful teacher. Carlos, Gongjin, it's your turn to shine, don't let Lear down. One could easily see that Carlos and Gongjin were not new students, however, they treated Yu Jing with the utmost respect. During the question and answer session, Carlos raised his hand. Xiao Fei nodded her head. Carlos stood up and silently looked around the entire classroom. I often hear that Professor Xiao Fei is an expert in space-time physics. I heard that for the last few years you have been researching methods to traverse space-time. My first question would be about this topic. With regards to the state of warp travel, without talking about the fundamentals, in these 5 years, has Professor Xiao Fei managed to find a solution? After speaking, he silently stared at Xiao Fei. Warp travel required one to identify the spatial coordinates of the location, and such a technique was the most common approach utilized in interstellar navigation. Humanity constantly strove to expand their boundaries. Thus, the further development of warp travel was one of the most important areas of research currently being conducted. If it was successful, it would be able to simplify the process and reduce the time needed to travel long distances. However, the largest problem with warp travel was that the spatial coordinates were often unstable and could not be precisely located. People who opposed the research were not small in number. They felt that development in this direction was a mistake and a waste of resources to develop something useless. The student just wanted to challenge the teacher, so the specific details were useless. Carlos had clearly done his research with regards to the topic before choosing to challenge her. Professor Xiao Fei, Professor Marshall and Professor Andros are experts in the field of space-time. They and many experts have conducted many experiments and felt that pursuing such a thing is complete nonsense. Scientists should dream big and create something new, not fiddle with established foundations and come up with whimsical and unrealistic research to distract the rest of the world. This does not meet the rigorous nature of science, said Gong Jin. He had quoted individuals that were no less impressive compared to Xiao Fei. In fact, what he had said was true. These young geniuses were definitely subject to more criticism. Such a controversy had already existed for quite some time. The road of academia was a long one and was full of struggles. However, Xiao Fei was unconcerned about her critics. Such individuals were useless. They could only solve problems that didn't exist and prodded their noses into everything. It was the only way they could validate their existences. Thus, when dealing with these people, Xiao Fei was never courteous towards them. However, as a teacher, arguing with students was beneath her. Looking at Wang Zheng, who was sitting in a corner, Xiao Fei couldn't help but smile darkly. That bastard had been living such a comfortable life. She didn't even know where he had found such a pretty girl. Wang Zheng, Carlos and Gong Jin's thoughts are very interesting. As my assistant, what views do you have? Xiao Fei immediately passed the baton to Wang Zheng. Carlos and Gong Jin couldn't help but give disdainful smiles. Xiao Fei didn't choose to confront them directly but offered someone else to be sacrificed in her place. What was this bastard worth? Could he actually solve this conundrum faced by the physics world? Yu Jing stared at Wang Zheng, her pretty face frozen solid. For some reason, The one she hated the most was not Yan Xiaoshu but Wang Zheng. Wang Zheng's carefree expressions and blank face had caused her to feel immense pain. She had always wondered how this bastard would even find a girlfriend, but in fact, sitting right next to him was a girl of unparalleled beauty. Aina had realized that she was too easily recognized, thus, just dyeing her hair was insufficient. Her starred pupils were too special, so she wore spectacles. This way it would be extremely difficult to recognize her. Furthermore, who would expect an Aslan princess to be sitting in the lecture hall like a normal individual? When Wang Zheng stood up, the rest of the students began to whisper incessantly. Apollo College's 2 students also stared at Wang Zheng. They had never heard of this guy, and since he wasn't even part of the student council, they didn't think he would be some exceptional talent. In the tri-college exchange, with military matters taking precedence, non-military matters would be more casual. Although the experts would gather to interact, there would also be some hidden rivalries. Wang Zheng was unconcerned with Yu Jing. To him, all those matters of the past were just that. Yan Xiaoshu had also found someone for himself and everything was fine with him. However, when someone stirred trouble on Ares College's turf, they had to be crushed completely. He had already discussed the subject of this question with the old merchant multiple times. However, at this point, most of the theories were just conjectures from the old merchant. He would often lament about the fact that if he had more time, he would have already solved the problem. It was as though his research was much more complicated than this. Firstly, warp travel through space-time is definitely possible. Wang Zheng started off with a conclusive and tyrannical statement. The physics department students were used to this person who would usually be extremely quiet but in times of crisis surprise everyone with his insight. However, the students from the other colleges did not know that. What he said was truly overbearing. Wang Zheng truly felt that way and thus spoke his mind. Student over there, you are indeed quite cocky. The entire Milky Way coalition's problems seem like a piece of cake to you. As Professor Xiao Fei's assistant and as a representative of Ares College, I would like to hear what you want to say. Carlos felt that this was extremely funny. A freshman would dare to say such audacious words. Wang Zheng gave a wry smile. The problem lies with locating the coordinates. However, this problem can be easily solved. The universe is constantly in motion. Although you can't see it, that does not mean it's not true. Our current way of locating spatial coordinates could be considered to be the most basic, at a third-dimensional level. However, upon entering warp travel, we have entered the realm of the 7th dimension. What we have to solve is the method of determining the spatial coordinates, which is to say, using the 7th dimension to solve it. At this moment, the entire class started whispering to each other. No one had heard of such an idea, but it actually seemed plausible. Carlos's face turned green. Your train of thought is not new, however, it's just a conjecture. Determining the position in the 7th dimension is just unrealistic. Haha, if we were to hold things that could be done as our standard, then science would no longer advance. As this is feasible, we have to advance in that direction. Thus, Professor Xiao Fei's topic of discussion is definitely correct. Wang Zheng smiled. Xiao Fei also nodded her head, showing her satisfaction. Carlos was speechless. Research was something that had no ending. If there was, why would there be a need to continue researching? This was the reason why scientists continued to pursue the truth, and he could not refute this reason. Yu Jing's face turned green. This bastard was still so eloquent. After saying a bunch of things she did not understand, he started to scare her. Gong Jin, who felt insulted, replied, if you can't even handle him, then I'm greatly worried for our future. Carlos and Gong Jin glanced at each other momentarily. They were terribly uneasy, but there was no other way. Lear had previously promised that if they settled the situation satisfactorily, they would be able to enter the Solar System Federation's Science Research Institute. Gong Jin cleared his throat and said, Student Wang, you are going around in circles. I would like to know if the world-renowned genius Professor Xiao Fei has made any progress at all in all these years. Could you please give us students some confidence? Everyone's gaze fell on Xiao Fei. Gong Jin's question was indeed something on everyone's minds. After researching for so many years, there should have been some result of some sort. However, conducting research was not the same as debating. A large amount of research was conducted methodologically, eliminating hypotheses one at a time. However, the research had not progressed to such a step. Xiao Fei had experimented with numerous methods but none of them bore fruit. At the same time, she could not divulge secret information just to refute the question. At this point, Wang Zheng laughed. We have deduced the method already. Really? Then that must be good news for the Milky Way Alliance. I hope you won't tell me that it's confidential information. Gong Jin smiled as he replied. Absolute rubbish. If someone had discovered the method for research, it would have caused an uproar. Xiao Fei stared at Wang Zheng. The two of them had indeed not talked about this before. What was this bastard trying to be, a scapegoat? Wang Zheng, this matter, teacher, although it can be considered a secret, I feel that divulging a bit of it will not harm anyone. Of course, this is only about its feasibility. Wang Zheng paused. The entire room's gazes rested on Wang Zheng, including Ana's. This topic was at the forefront of science. Did he really have an answer? Wang Zheng was often full of surprises. Ana was already mentally prepared for it. Being able to locate the seventh dimension is the current issue plaguing us. However, I believe that we need to split this problem into two parts. We will treat the current third dimension as a compound plane. This will allow us to control two layers at once. If the transmission is done in a state where speed is curved, it will cause displacement. Positioned in such a manner, the relative movement in space-time can shift the relative coordinates of the object. Simply put, space can be moved. The visitors who were listening in were mostly from years 3 or 4. The entire classroom was silent. Everyone was in deep thought as there were some concepts in Wang Zheng's speech that required time to understand. On the other hand, Xiao Fei's eyes, which were full of wisdom, glittered brilliantly. Moving space-time? This actually seemed possible. The problem that had been pestering her for several years had been solved with that one explanation. Carlos and Gong Jin looked at each other. Even though they didn't understand, they pretended they did. They had heard of other explanations before, but it was needless to say that just by coming up with such a theory would significantly shake up the Milky Way Alliance. This could only mean that Professor Xiao Fei had kept a low profile and couldn't be bothered to argue with others. Carlos and Gong Jin bowed deeply. We thank you for your teachings. The bell signifying the end of class rang. Ana had been paying close attention to Wang Zheng's and Xiao Fei's expressions. It was obvious that with Xiao Fei's stunned and pensive expressions, this was not Xiao Fei's conjecture. Follow me, Wang Zheng. Just as he was about to leave with Ana, Wang Zheng, who was about to take advantage of Ana, had a frown on his face as he stopped. I'm going to borrow your boyfriend for a bit. As they weren't too different in age, Xiao Fei spoke quite casually. No problem, Professor. Just remember to return him, Ana replied with a sweet smile. This girl was extremely intelligent. As a fellow female, Xiao Fei felt stunned. Looking at Wang Zheng's distant figure, Yu Jing was so angry that she could not control herself, so she stomped away. Wang Zheng had once again defied the odds by sowing chaos with his words. Carlos, Gong Jin, with just their meager ability, they dared to be so arrogant. The physics department producing the most illustrious students is just a lie. This Wang Zheng is a useless piece of crap. How could you believe his random words? Carlos and Gong Jin only replied after a brief pause. They were still trying to understand Wang Zheng's words. Yu Jing, you're wrong about this. This Wang Zheng is a rarely found genius. The theory he spoke of, even if it is incorrect, will still stir up the entire scientific community. We cannot compete with him. Carlos and Gong Jin no longer bothered with Yu Jing. The two of them went on their own way. Their eyes, which had previously been clouded, had now been cleared as though a window had appeared in front of them. Even if they were cynical individuals, they felt that this was a possibility. It was like the time when Newton's theory of gravity was superseded by the theory of relativity. This was sufficient to spur everyone on. Truth is relative in science. Wang Zheng had been dragged into Xiao Fei's office and then the door slammed shut. Student Wang was then pressed against the table by Xiao Fei. This position, however, Xiao Fei did not care at all about what others would think. She observed Wang Zheng intently, as though she was trying to fully comprehend what Wang Zheng was. Haha, Professor, if you have anything to say, we can just speak freely. Although he had done some intimate things with Ana, He had never been placed in such a position. Xiao Fei's body was almost pressing onto Wang Zheng's body directly. As Xiao Fei was a mature individual, her bodily proportions were fully developed, so Wang Zheng, a highly energetic young man, could not take it. However, Xiao Fei did not care. "Brat, where did you learn all of that?" Although Wang Zheng was a genius, Xiao Fei did not believe that he could come up with what he had presented before. This was what the old merchant had said. However, just as Wang Zheng wanted to say that, he remembered what the old merchant once said. The words spoken between them could not be mentioned to others. Wang Zheng shrugged his shoulders helplessly. "Teacher, I was just speaking rubbish. That was just wisdom. Actually, I don't really understand what I was saying. As I said before, I am willing to believe in wild theories, but that was all just made up on the fly. Are you saying it was reasonable?" Wang Zheng opened his eyes widely as he spoke. It was said that doing so would make a liar seem more honest. Xiao Fei could not find any loopholes in his statement. At times, science required brilliant streaks of luck. It could only be said that this brat had great luck. Suddenly, he felt like his lower body was being stared at by someone, then Wang Zheng felt his stomach lurch. Looking down, he could not hold back his reaction. Xiao Fei then gingerly let go of Wang Zheng before giving him a nonchalant look. "Seems like you're truly worthy. It's a pity you already have a girlfriend. Otherwise, I might have just kept you." Student Wang felt defeated. How could this be a teacher? This was an evil demon. "Haha, Professor, if there's nothing else, I'm going to leave first. Looking at you, you're definitely a virgin. Your way of thinking is excellent and I will tell Professor Marcus about you." Wang Zheng immediately escaped. FK. Demon Xiao was just standing there spouting merciless words. If she wasn't his teacher, Wang Zheng would get back at her eventually. Xiao Fei did not bother any further with this little episode. After Wang Zheng left, she was in an extremely enthusiastic mood, so she continued to make new inferences about the theory. It could be seen that although she was very boastful, her EQ and IQ were clearly unequaled. The moment he left, he gave Aina a call. She was waiting for him in the library. Just looking at Aina revitalized Wang Zheng. She gave a wry smile and asked, "Why are you here already?" "I only know so much, and the rest was just something I came up with. If you did serious research, you would realize that too," Wang Zheng said helplessly as he waved his hands. Aina did not say anything but looked at Wang Zheng. "Do you know that what you said just now was sufficient for you to go down in history as a genius?" Wang Zheng was completely aware that the old merchant was an amazing geezer. However, what he talked about before was a conjecture of the old merchant and not his. "I'm not that amazing." Aina grabbed Wang Zheng's hand. "Ah, I'm slightly worried now." "What are you worried about?" Wang Zheng asked curiously. "Since you're so amazing, there will definitely be more and more love rivals," Aina said as she slyly ran off. Wang Zheng couldn't help but sweat. "Okay then, my princess, since you dare to ridicule me, I need to collect some interest." On the grassy field, Wang Zheng and Aina chased each other energetically. In the end, the beautiful princess was caught by the big bad wolf and knocked onto the ground. During the tri-college exchange, the famous professors would definitely have to show up. However, Xiao Fei did not care and gave it a miss. Ji Yute also had no say in the matter. He gave Xiao Fei a Skylink call but was rejected. On the third call, he was rejected rudely. Even as a principal he felt wronged. However, he knew that Xiao Fei had suddenly attained a breakthrough in her research. Her entire team and Marcus's team had been hastily doing research. "Ji Yute, this time we are also here because we wanted to meet Professor Xiao Fei. You've truly been underestimated by her. How could you treat us so coldly?" In the principal's office, 3 old men were currently chatting and drinking tea. The one who spoke was Apollo Military College's principal, Jamal. He had a head of golden hair and looked like he was in glowing spirits. For the last couple of years, Apollo Military College was the best one amongst the 3. "Jamal, you can forget about it. It's impossible to get Xiao Fei to join you unless you're willing to step all over this old bag of bones." Among the 3, the one that looked the youngest was the principal from Zeus College, Adonis. "Haha, if Xiao Fei joins us, our Apollo College will definitely be among the 50 best colleges in the Milky Way Alliance." This was Jamal's dream. Haha, Jamal, you have yet to win, so don't get too excited, Adonis said. However, this train of thought is beneficial for us. We need to find ways to improve our three colleges' ability. Ji Tae's defense was different. Jamal and Adonis sought to expand their abilities and were unwilling to descend into obscurity. Ji Tae gave a wry smile. I know what you mean. However, wanting to enter the top 50 schools in the Milky Way Alliance is meaningless. We have to protect Earth's pride at least. Adonis had suggested that the three colleges merge. Jamal on the other hand felt that a new college completely independent of their three colleges should be formed. They would focus their resources on this new college to create the best college on Earth. Ji Tae was in opposition of both of their ideas. A college was meant for the students, not for the sake of status. Although one needed glory for cohesion, strength, and belief, if it was only for glory's sake, then it would be meaningless. With the three military colleges' strength, if they were to focus on only the exceptional students, this could be done. However, how would this affect the status quo on Earth? This was no different from drinking poison to quench one's thirst. The three old men continued to discuss numerous methods and argued for some time. It was clear that Jamal and Adonis wanted to attain the position of champion amongst them. Ji Tae, on the other hand, was quite ambivalent. Idiomatic expression meaning a short-term solution.